Thanks for the conversation, by the way. I'm sure this will be fun.
Yeah. When I make a
Could
video
you
about
remind
this,
me
it'll
the
be Carl gets destroyed.
destroyed?
Yeah.
Can you remind me the context and why this came up? I mean, we talked about it a bit in VC on Twitch Politics, and
Yeah, um we were talking about I just published a video with Ico Rules and Chud Logic where we were talking about Hasan Piker buying a new house. And we kind of got into the fact that the left hates all poor people and they want to kill them all, and they're running around doing everything they can to make sure that they demolish them.
right,
Yeah.
because property is theft, and so if I have something, that means you don't have it, meaning I stole it from you.
Hmm.
Right?
There you go.
That's the pure logical connection. Absolutely flawless logic. Property is theft. Therefore, any personal property that I have means I took it from you personally. No, but really, what it means is property is theft. Meaning, if I am holding something, if I'm consuming something that's more than I need, that's depriving someone of something, which goes with the Hasan Piker logic because he's got a enormous house, and if he didn't buy that house, it would be converted to public housing. But I mean, of course not.
No.
Um, so really, the argument is, why isn't he inviting people into his house, or why isn't he buying an apartment complex and hosting people? You know, like having a co-op housing thing on his dime.
Yeah, I mean
That would
that's
be that
more.
would be rad, right?
Yeah, it was so that I think like that was more my issue was I feel like there's a lot of like bolstering from the left about how great they are, about how much they love poor people, about how nobody on the right cares about poor people, and um, but when it comes down to brass tacks, it seems as though it is the right that seems to do more. Like hands-on stuff, like not just donating money, but that as well, but also donating time and putting in time at like soup kitchens or in orphanages or adoption centers. So it's like it seems to be that if I want to be on the left and I want to say, oh, I really care about poor people more than anyone else, all I have to do is vote for Bernie Sanders every 4 years and I've done my duty.
Right, that's it. You just vote and it'll happen. It'll just solve all the world's problems through electoralism, and that's what on the left we like to make fun of people who are like, you just vote, or just move is basically another, meme there. I should probably be watching your chat because no one's chatting with me. So let's get that up here. There we go. Uh, but the difference is, of course, that some people on the left, let's say the actual leftists, are doing stuff like they did go down to chop and feed people and help people secure housing. Is that is is that better? Like if I am out here saying that, oh yeah, we should have public housing, and I'm going to promote it and I'm going to stream about it and I'm going to say that, if you don't support a public policy that does that, you hate the poor. That's the argument, is that by virtue of what we want to devote our public funds to, we can decide one way or the other how much we like to support our fellow human beings. Whereas your position is it charity? Is that, did I
My
encapsulate that part of our conversation?
Yes, so like because the left likes to turn around and say the right hates the poor because they don't like all of these social programs, which I'm not like completely against all of them. There's a lot that I'm definitely in favor of, but because the right is against, like, let's say like Medicare for all or something like that, the no the default response to that is, well, that's because you hate poor people. And it's crap, I'm blanking. What was the question again? I
that it
Oh
is
yes,
only
yes,
through
yes.
our
So I'm
policy
sorry.
prescription. Yeah.
Yes, so
Mhm.
I only say like they hate like the left hates the poor just as like a retort to that sort of narrative that they push. But in reality, like yes, I just feel as though people in general should do more, whether it's the right or the left. Like when it comes to being pragmatic, you have to live within the system that we're currently in. If you want something else that you think would be better, that's great. But in the system we're currently in, you wanting something else isn't doing anything for anybody right now. And unless you're like Haas or infrared, then you're normally not going to say, well, let's let everybody starve and die and go to war so that we can finally get our communist utopia that we've been wanting this whole time, right? Like that's
Revolution, right?
right. You're
Right.
normally not going
You
to
gotta
have that.
go to war to get the things you want. Or if you're not an insane, you know, class reductionist, you will do things like what we call mutual aid or charity or direct giving of some kind. So
So what is
what
the real difference between, because like I understand that I think all mutual aid is charity, but not all charity is mutual aid, right? So like what is mutual aid that separates it from other charities?
yeah, so you said you said not all
Not all
mutual aid is.
mutual, or sorry, all mutual aid is charity, but not all charities are mutual aids.
Well, I'd reverse that because I'd say that not all mutual aid is charity. There is, in fact, some amount of mutual aid, which is okay, I have an abundance of wealth, I have an abundance of food. I am going to put this food in like a public refrigerator where because I don't need it. And so I'm out of my abundance, I'm helping someone else survive. You can say, okay, either that is charity or mutual aid or both. If it was like I'm I'm just giving this to someone directly, or that would be obviously charity. If it's something like, okay, I'm going to help organize the existence of a public refrigerator. I'm going to either provide a spot for it to exist, or I'm going to put food into it, and maybe some week I'll take food out. And so I'm both giving and taking from that system. I am supporting the existence of this, and that would be like, working at the soup kitchen when you eat at the soup kitchen. I've not seen such a facility. They usually have plenty of people willing to give their time and lots of procedures, but it'd be more like a co-op. Then that would be clear mutual aid where people are both giving and participating in cooking as well as eating. And so that's sort of the, it's a little bit of semantics, but yeah. And so I know, I participate here and there, not as much as I could, I'll admit. And I'm sure you might say the same thing, or do you just are you like on a charity trip right now?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. So neither of us are supreme like giving infinitely giving of our time. We both stream. We both like to talk about politics. So out of this imperfection arises the ability for us to do good. And the question is, do either of us hate the poor because we're not doing everything we possibly could?
No, of course not.
Okay. Okay. So
Well, that's why I
is
started off by saying, like, I don't
yeah,
necessarily believe that the left hates the poor. It's that
right.
that's the rhetoric that
It's
they
a good
choose
retort.
to use. So I use it right back at them to say, like, well, if anybody hated the poor, it would be you guys. But I don't believe that either.
Well, are you willing to work to fight, corruption in business that allows abuse of working people?
Well, I mean, it
For
depends on
example,
what yeah,
yeah,
define as
okay.
abuse.
Like giving someone only enough hours, only well, giving someone too few hours uh, for them to qualify for benefits under the law, and instead hiring another person so that you have two people working, paying zero benefits to either one. Is that the kind of thing that I think? I mean, it should it be regulated better? Perhaps. I mean, that's
Um,
the
I don't
usual
know because
accusation against.
I don't know how you could regulate that. Like how you could tell a business that they have to work somebody a certain amount of hours. I don't like it, especially with different availabilities in some companies where they have like a cap on it and they have different like hours that they're actually busy. Like it would be hard to go into somebody's payroll and look at their all of their timestamps and say like, okay, this person should be working more hours, because even like if they have a ton of availability doesn't necessarily mean that we have like work for you to do all of the time. Maybe I'm a restaurant where I'm only busy from 5 to 9 every day. So I only need you for 4 hours a day, but you want benefits. You want to work the full 40 hours, or I think it's 28, something like that. But yeah, like you want the benefits, but like I don't think I just think it would be impossible to regulate something like that.
Interesting. So, it given that it's clearly impossible to regulate corporations well enough that they actually benefit the people who work there, honestly, because a corporation, has a singular motive. It is to make money.
Right?
There. In fact, if you're publicly traded, you have to have that motive. Otherwise, it's financial malfeasance.
I'm glad that you know this. I I argue with my chat about this all the time.
So given that, wouldn't you agree that maybe we need to have something like a socialized workplace or universal basic income or universal health care or social housing and all these things that kind of wipes out the the need for restrained capitalism, the need for capitalism to for us to beg and plead at the feet of the capitalists in order to survive.
I think, yeah, I think to a limit, some sort of socialized housing that's means tested uh, would be a good thing.
Why means tested?
Um, because I think that obviously, like anytime people are capable of paying for something themselves, they probably should pay for it themselves instead of using the system unnecessarily. But when I say means tested, I don't mean like you have to be making like, $10,000 a year in order. I mean like, probably people who are making like 60 to $70,000 a year and have kids would probably still, especially depending on the area that you live in, that would, there's probably a high ceiling that I would use as a marker for means testing, but I still think that, yeah, generally it should be means tested.
So if I'm making $120,000 in downtown Seattle, um, I should have to commute from Issaquah or
I'm sorry.
Soto or
I thought I was mostly responding to having socialized housing when I said means
right.
tested.
No, but because that's sort of the reality is that you can set a line, and still, you're gonna exclude someone, and so if I was making slightly less than I am now, or if my wife didn't have a job, it would be really hard to pay like a $3,000 a month rent. And in fact, we're lucky that we got that because now new rents up here for a three bedroom, you can look three bedroom 98102. Find me a place that is less than $5,000 a month. Uh,
I'm sorry. I think I
we
might be missing your point here. Are you saying that like socialized housing might only be in certain places and therefore you would have to commute a long way? What is the commute point?
I'm saying that means testing is an unnecessary cruelty. Is that right? And it breeds fraud in the system. I have friends in Idaho who, for years, tell me that welfare is a scam. They hate welfare, and then all of a sudden their factory shuts down, and they're on unemployment, and they refuse to work because if they work, their unemployment goes away, or then they become dependent on the welfare system. Oh, sorry, the this social safety net, and they can't earn more than a certain amount or their food stamps go away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's why I
I
think
definitely
means
don't like that.
testing,
But
yeah,
means
I don't
testing, I
like it.
think, can be good just on a gradual system, not like once you start working, you're cut off. Like, I don't like that part of it, but I think that you can have things where you have a gradual system, and especially a system. So, say, like, take our like welfare right now, or something like unemployment. Okay. Um, I think that we should have things like jobs programs and something to help people get back to work. But then on top of that, like over time, you wean them off of it as they're getting back to work, and have even tiers for how much somebody makes so they can go back and work some and still make a good amount of money without getting kicked off of it. Especially, say you have like kids and you can't just go back to work and make enough to pay all of your bills, then yeah, like there should be a different tier for you to where you're able to stay on welfare and continue getting some sort of paycheck. But I that just because I say means tested doesn't mean that like there can't be a good system for that means testing.
I mean, I'd love to see something more of a progressive social housing
Yeah.
is kind of what you're talking about. So like it'd be wonderful to have something like that where there's enough housing, and even if I am slightly over this means testing level, let's say I get a subsidy. I get like $500 a month so that I'm not like in financial distress. Then of course we come to the problem of employers get involved and they're able to manipulate the income of their workers so that it favors the corporation, so that it favors their bottom line to get the most out of the state that they possibly can. Something you might be familiar with, regulatory capture, exists for welfare programs, for all kinds of social programs as well. And that's like exactly the deal that we have with Walmart not giving its workers enough hours, enough benefits, and so they're on food stamps. And either the worker decides, okay, I don't have I'm not going to make enough to break my food stamps, and then they're gaining benefits from the state, and so then we have to decide, is that an offense? Is that something that needs to be corrected for? And so I just want to sort of slowly back out of these really heady kind of wonky points and get to the principles. You think that people should work in order to be what, better people or have a better society? People should be productive.
Yeah, being productive members of society in
Okay.
general. Yes.
Right. And so if we offer too much free stuff in society, people will choose not to work, even if there's no means testing, even if there's no obstacles to getting work, even if there's like you have a very limited, say, survival set of things, housing, food, etc. But then if you want anything nice, you've got to go work for it, you've got to earn it. And the hypothesis that I get on the right is no one's going to work
No, of
in
course
that
not.
case.
I think that people would still work, obviously. I don't think that that's the case. I mean, if we're talking about like socialism in general or something that has some sort of like a central mode, like I don't I just normally don't think those systems uh work or can work. But I think that like capitalism does work in a way that does motivate people and gets a lot done, and so I think we should want to. And then socialism has more of the like idealistic things that we should want for our country and for the people that live here, and I think that we could find like a good middle ground. Like when it comes to even though I identify as being on the right, when I vote as like a sock dem sort of person.
Well, that's good, because otherwise it might accuse you of hating the poor. Haha, kidding. uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, having a better, like if I was going to say, okay, that sounds like a Warren Democrat, like Like Elizabeth Warren is like sort of this fraught middle ground, not quite socialist, but progressive Democrat. Good policies in general, really smart about things like has big proposals, wealth tax and all that is really exciting stuff and energizes the base in some way. But it's still on the edge of like strangely conservative because she came from Texas. She has the Protestant work ethic idea, and so a lot of these ideas are still within that framework of you must work in order to prove you are worthy of existing. And that's when you come down to it, that's a little cringe. Like you say, capitalism motivates people. How does it motivate people? Well, because you're going to die if you don't do the thing.
Yeah.
It's Coconut Island.
Yeah. It's not Coconut Island, but it is like, um,
I mean,
isn't
as long as sex work is legal, yeah, it could be, and that's one argument for against keeping sex work legal in different places, or is that it literally forces us to do whatever we can to survive, and in some ways that is selling. Some places that is selling your body.
I mean, according to Merrick, uh, sex work will be available in the communist utopia as well. Women will and men will always want to do sex work.
I would love to believe that, and I think that we would need to explore. We would need to explore liberating society from capitalism before we can actually test that. I mean, I know there's some people who genuinely enjoy it. I mean, there are porn stars who have lives and they actually seek out boyfriends aside from their porn careers, so it clearly enables them to have a fulfilling private sex life as well as one that's very public. So I can accept that there are a few people like that. I don't know if it's societally perfect or not. I
Right.
would hope it is. I would hope that that we can evolve beyond things like shame and etc.
But I do think that, like, yeah, to a point, I do think that we will get more done under capitalism than we would under like, yeah, I think that there would be more people who don't work under the communist utopia than there would be under capitalism. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like productivity is good, and it's not just good for the people at the very top, but it's good for the country, it's good for society at large, and it produces innovation. And I'm not saying that other countries won't be have innovation as well, or that it's not possible to have innovation in the communist utopia, but I uh, I do think that, yeah, like having something that pushes you, that says like, hey, you need to go get these things done. It doesn't just help you, right? Like if I go and stand at the register at McDonald's and take people's money so that I can make a living wage and pay all of my bills so that I don't die out in the cold hungry, that doesn't just help me, helps everybody who wants to go and buy something at McDonald's. Like they want somebody there so that they can hand them their dollar bills and walk away with a dollar cheeseburger.
I'm deciding which way to go with this, but I think we should in some way roundabout head back to the point, which is the I guess I'm trying to play out your fundamental morality is that it it's better for society if society is productive,
Right.
and the only way that society will be productive is if every member of society is facing this existential need to be productive.
I, you, it doesn't have to be an existential need. When I say that we should have social programs to provide the necessities, um, and I think, like I said, different circumstances call for different things, or more things than others. But yeah, like to have like the tippy top bestest of everything, like yeah, there should be some sort of motivation to get you there.
Okay. So the alternative, of course, is that we're headed to the future, Tom. We're really headed to the future, and I mean the robots are coming. We're gonna sit in a VR race car box and eat bugs all day. Future, like totally memeing, but some iteration of providing food and housing and basic fundamental needs should, in my opinion, and the typical leftist's opinion, should not be contingent on their willingness to submit to a boss or their willingness to exploit people or consumers to make a product. And
What?
so that's the thesis, is that we in our futuristic abundance should be able to produce so much stuff, housing, food, etc., that it's just I mean, you call it market socialism. Is this is the market socialism hypothesis? Is that it's so cheap to feed people, it's so cheap to house people, it's so cheap to clothe people that you just do it, and it's like the wealthiest person in the world. It's just a tiny tenth of a percent of their wealth, and every other of the top 1% of the people in the world, it's such a small little thing to provide basic needs for most people, in fact for all people, that it's just done. And then on top of that, and this is the sort of the libertarian, the Vosh style libertarian socialism, where you just layer on top of that our ability to innovate and create and enjoy life and really make some awesome stuff. And then we're having really high class, boxes with the VR porn and all that, and the bugs are really tasty bugs. But beyond the memes, this is sort of the difference is, as a society, we will only survive if everyone feels the existential dread of failing, of
Again, it
falling
doesn't
apart.
have to
And
be existential. I keep saying, like, we can have all of the social programs there so that it is not existential. It doesn't have to be
okay,
existential. But when it comes
but
to
that
doing
means
more, when it comes to
okay,
doing better, yes, and when you call it exploitation, well, if we have other things that are there, if there are other people who are if there's a helicopter that's going to drop coconuts down so that you don't have to give fellatio to the coconut
yes,
guy, then it's
yes,
no longer exploitation.
right. Then I can live on my government cheese in my Section 8 housing, and and if I feel like writing a novel and people feel like giving me money for that novel, that's wonderful, and I can have a better life. But we don't live in that America. We live in the America where there's like there's thousands and thousands of houseless individuals, and for every person without a house, there are 28 homes out there empty for some reason.
Right?
And that's mind-boggling.
Yep. Yeah, again, like I'm fully on board with providing the necessities, things,
So,
that
so how are
sort of
you going to
stuff.
make it happen? So do you spend of your income, your wealth, and your time to make these things happen, or do you just vote?
You do both.
Right. Does Hasan do both?
I don't know if he, I mean, I would assume he at least votes. I don't know. I don't think he does both.
I
Um,
don't think he does both either, and that's a valid criticism of what he's up to.
Right.
So
And I'm
yeah,
like I've said this a million times. I make less than $60,000 a year, or maybe right at now. I don't even know what I make a year, but I I'm not Hassan. I know that, but like I would bet everything I make in a year that I do a lot more than he does when it comes to charity work or direct
wonderful.
action or
Hmm.
those sorts of things. And I think that's embarrassing. I think that that's sad. Um, I think that it's essential for people to donate money and time to to others. And if you can't donate time, then donate more money. If you can't donate more money, then donate more time. But I think that, yes, I think everybody should be. When I talk about like doing your part in society, it's not just making more money for the capitalists, but it's also, involving charity work and voting and all of those things.
Uh, so excellent. I think that that was a really good like type slash marker in chat because we hit a good end of the segment, and I'm going to do that right now. Oh no, I'm not. I'm not on Twitch. Never mind. Uh, how soon I forget. Um, that's one of the features that I'm missing right now, though. Is so here at an hour and 15 minutes. Anyways, right. So we both agree that there is a you know, sort of like this mutual, um, not obligation, mutual duty to help people less fortunate than ourselves. And this is like
I'm sorry, real quick.
the
I
go ahead.
I tried downloading so I got the cord. I tried downloading the utility for my camera. I thought I had the M55, but it might be the M80 or something. Do you have
Canon,
it?
Sony,
Canon. But I once I
50.
downloaded the utility, it's not picking it up at all. I thought it was the 50, but it might be the 80. No, it's M. So it's definitely M50.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's
I
what
mean
I
that's a
got.
you do need a firmware update, and because that was like a 2020 feature for most of these cameras.
I mean, I was able to do it on my computer at home.
Oh,
Um, so I just brought my camera with me, and
theoretically, it should work. I haven't. I'm so addicted to my video capture devices. I just use them. In fact, what is that? What? So if you're messing around with your camera, I could uh, I could give you some time to do that, or we
um,
can
yeah,
we can keep
we
continuing.
can keep going.
Okay. Right. So the big ending point is that we both kind of agree in the final shape of society. Is that right? That there should be basic needs met by government, society, local communities, whatever you call it, whatever you want to say, the mechanism for accomplishing universal basic survival. That should be a reality.
Yeah, there should be safety nets for the necessities.
Okay, great. And if I am sort of like if I have given you a good enough argument against means testing those, then we can maybe we'll make those basic necessities a little more meager in order to fit in the trust fund kid who just doesn't want to work because he's a slacker and he hasn't discovered himself, and we can live with it until he figures himself out. We can build enough social housing, provide enough government cheese, etc., so that it's not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
food, housing,
amazing. We're gonna, left
childcare.
and right is gonna form up in the middle and make the great sock dem future.
I am the only good right winger. That's the problem. I'm sorry.
I today I believe it. I but so but underlying that there's sort of the and I do have a some sympathy to this because I've gone through with my conservative friends sort of the stories that they have of, oh yeah, I had this friend, they got into drugs and they just started spending all their money, and we couldn't separate them from that addiction problem until we actually scared them into like an existential like dread of losing their home, losing everything that mattered to them. And
Oh
that's sort
yeah.
of like the argument against providing too much free stuff is that some people will basically, what they say on Twitch, Roblox themselves by some situation. They will corner themselves into a situation of abuse, and there's no solution to that other than some kind of existential dread therapy, aka you got to get a job or you're going to die.
Yeah, I mean, I
So,
definitely believe that that's the case, but I think that that's the case for like a very small amount of people, to where like I think most people want to do better. I think most people want more. I think most people
right.
would be um happier with more, and they want to do better for themselves and their families. And so yeah, I don't think that like that's as big of a problem as maybe others might feel.
Yeah. And I think it could be a problem, but in my philosophy it doesn't override, sort of our societal duty to provide for all people.
I mean, it depends. Like if yes, if it did make it to where society was less productive and like wasn't able to exist and grow in the way it is currently, then yeah, I would think that it's a problem. But like, it like as long as that's not the case, then I don't think it's that like there's people who currently uh abuse welfare systems, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like if that's what they want to do, then that's fine. That's their life is gonna kind of be stuck there for the rest of their lives, and that's on them. Like I don't think it matters all that much.
It's a small price to pay for, having a just and moral society where no one's going to starve in the street.
Yeah.
Like by and what you call it, the Blackstone formulation. Better to let 1,000 innocents go free than punish 1,000 guilty go free than punish one is innocent. It's either that, or you turn it on its head and say, like Dwight Schrute, it's better to punish 1,000 innocents than let one guilty person go free.
Yeah. I I'm yeah, I'm still not able to use my camera. I feel bad that I
It's all
just
right.
ran them all the way over there to get my plug, and I still can't use it.
It's all right.
For
I
anybody who
I
just
got your
joined,
icon.
I
Yeah.
my internet's out at my house, so I am uh over at a family member's house using their Wi-Fi, using their computer. I brought my mic, I brought my camera and my headphones and everything, and I'm not able to set up my camera, so I'm this is what we got. I'm chud logicking today.
Go. You've got a quite your Discord icon is large and in charge on my stream.
Nice.
So the yeah, it was good. I'm glad we arrived at that. But you kind of opened up a new and interesting line of conversation. Unless there's someplace you'd like to take this.
No, let's go.
If people not working makes society worse actively, that's the reason you gave for, not it makes society as a whole less productive
Right.
when too many people don't work. What if society as a whole is less productive because of capitalism? Because making we're making some kind of induced demand. We're making garbage products that no one likes. We're making iPhones that fall apart after 6 months, etc. All that, all the worst consequences of capitalism lead to, a seeking of profit and like this predatory instinct where they will do whatever it takes in order to increase profits.
Um.
So, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, like um, I don't know. Like, I think that you would want to again find some sort of middle ground there to where like, because I think it seems obvious that capitalism pushes productivity, right? Like, markets are a good thing, and capitalism, what as you say, uh, gives you an existential threat to where like it pushes productivity. And I do think that there's an issue with like consumerism and overproduction and that sort of stuff. But if we started like what my original statement was just kind of saying like that I don't want to get to a point to where we become less productive, but it could be that there's things that stand in our way right now that are making us less productive. I wouldn't call that capitalism. Like when you have free open markets, obviously well regulated, but um, any sort of system can exist under that one system, right? Like we can have socialism and communism under capitalism. Those things can exist. You can go build your commune out on a farm and you guys can all, dance around in circles and sing kumbaya all you want. That's possible. It's not
as
possible.
as long as as long as our taxes aren't being siphoned away to support an industry that is basically done regulatory capture, and so we're bleeding away trying to, we're forced, basically our commune would be forced to contribute to capitalism in order to survive because of our property taxes or something like that.
Well, I mean, don't you think that the government is a socialized system? Like, you paying the government isn't you contributing to capitalism. You paying the government is you contributing to socialism.
Depends who we're at war with,
Well,
honestly.
yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, sure. But, like, outside of that, like, in socialism or in under communism, we can't have capitalism exist. Like, that can't be a thing under communism. And so if people want to go create this business that has a different way of doing things, they're free and able to do that if they so choose.
So I want to challenge that idea that we can't have capitalism within communism. What do you think's happening in China?
Would you call China a communist country?
I I think, yeah, because, and especially, I mean, okay, 2 years ago I might say no, not really, but recently, um, the CCP has made some really, really strong changes, like limiting capitalist enterprises, but they still exist. So like they limit like wealth and they limit things like profits, but there's still like the majority of the economic activity in any city is capitalist.
Yeah,
Is
they're a very mixed
services.
economy,
Mhm.
but I
Yeah,
wouldn't call
services
them
and
communists.
enterprises. Yeah, I'm not so. Yeah, I'm not sure if they're if they would fully qualify as
I would
communist.
say they were more communistic a while ago than they are now.
I don't know. I think that they're headed in a better direction than they were in the last decade, but it's a big argument.
I mean,
I mean,
normally
you'll get
I would say like the biggest part of like what is capitalistic with when it comes to them is like the way that they trade through exports. Um, but the uh, like if you actually had an actual communist country where like I don't know. I don't even know what we want to call communist because this is we're gonna get into weird definitions. But like, if everything's either decommodified or you have some system outside of the market deciding what prices are, then no, like capitalism just can't exist there. Like it's not able to. Um, so yeah,
there's too many things decommodified, and so there's like, I mean, but that doesn't, that doesn't follow for me. Like if you start with the idea that you're able to invest in oh sorry, you have cash, like you're not abolishing money. That would be the easiest way of getting to communism, is saying, well, there's no, or sorry, eliminating capitalism. There's no such thing as money. And so, nope, can't trade it, you can't hold it, you can't loan it, there's no money. But there is money in China. So, you're able to invest in things, and you're able to demand a rate of return from that investment. There might be regulations on it. And I guess this is the question of what is capitalism? Is it only a free market if there's no regulations, or is it
no, of course not.
is the market improved by regulations?
I mean, I wouldn't even say that like capitalism is a free market. Like normally, it's a market the um, where the demand and value, or the demand normally decides the value of something, right? Um, so it doesn't even have to like necessarily be a free market because you can regulate how that market still works as long as what's dictating prices is the value or the um, I'm blanking on the word all of a sudden, or the need or want for that product or service.
Yeah, and I want to be careful, is that just like we can't have we can't play no true Scotsman with communism. We shouldn't do that with capitalism either. Capitalism is the existence of an investor class who produces that produces their economic output by investing in in a new business, in a new venture. And then the workers, the people who work on that venture,
So the person
collect.
who holds capital owns the means of production.
Yeah, that's another way of saying it. Yeah, and so the people who work for that capitalist are not able to own the means of production. And communism, I don't know what how even would I define a good faith definition of
Yeah, I
communism?
don't know either.
It is not capitalism. It is basically the absence of the ability for every worker to own their means of production, which is a wild sort of, you could have a wild futurist take on it, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I
everyone
would.
gets a
I mean, we could.
everyone gets a 3D printer, I guess.
Yeah, I like. I don't remember Richard Wolff. I felt like he had a really weird definition uh, of what the difference between communism and socialism was. But in my head, I suppose normally I think of communism as a more decommodified version of socialism. And normally I think like of socialism is just where the workers are able to own the means of production. So even like a Vosh system of like market socialism where everything is just run through not unions but co-ops pretty much, then like that's like the bare minimum of socialism. And um so yeah.
I'd say it on this continuum. I would be the most happy with capitalism if it was struggling for survival, sort of the way that that some right
Yeah,
wingers
we
think about government.
in order to talk about socialism and communism, we need to first talk about feudalism.
That's a good one. Feudalism. Feudalism is, of course, the origin of liberalism, because feudalism is that I own all the coconuts and I own all the coconut trees, and you live on the land with the coconut trees, but they actually belong to me. And liberalism is the revolt, where if you live under a coconut tree, then those are your coconuts.
Yeah,
How's that for a summary?
that's good. It's a good system.
And it would be if there were nothing but coconuts. It would probably be a really amazing system. But someone keeps buying up the coconut plantations and the coconut trees, and we've got like neo feudalism now.
Well, Sassafras says, she says, yeah, why don't you try out something different that could be better? The lack of imagination makes me so mad. It's not like everybody's looking at, socialism and being like, man, that's so much better. Let's not do that. Nobody's doing that. Like they're looking at it saying like, that doesn't actually look better, or that seems to have some problems, or it's got some issues. And
They're actually looking at socialism and saying, "Oh my God, this is going to hurt my bottom line.
yes,
So I better say that socialism is actually going to take away everything you love about America."
yes. Well, no. So here's where we're gonna get to down to the fundamental differences. I believe that if I go and start a lemonade stand, and after a while, I'm making so much lemonade to where I could make more money if I got other people here, and I got one guy who just pours the sugar in, and one guy who just stirs it up, and one guy who just squeezes the lemons in. I could make a whole lot more lemonade here. And maybe eventually I can open up another lemonade stand where we do more of this. But in the end, this is my idea. I'm the one who paid for the lemonade. I'm the one who paid for the sugar. I'm the one who made the lemonade stands happen. They wouldn't be there if it wasn't for me. You have no intrinsic right to my ideas, to my labor, to my money that I invested. There's no reason why you should be able to just come in and say, hey, we're going to unionize now, and now you have to do whatever we tell you to. I'd rather be like, nah, how about I fire all of you and I go get a bunch of new people? Like, as much as it sounds like, yeah, that would be a cool thing for everybody to get all the things that they want. In the end, I believe that people should have personal property and private property, and that they should be able to choose what to do with that.
So I would attack the intellectual property angle on this, but I want to get I don't want to
Not even intellectual property. I'm not even talking about
right,
intellectual property. I'm
right.
saying that this business would not exist if it wasn't for me, right? I am the one
If
who
you didn't
invested
find the
things
need
and took the
and
chances.
and so your past labor means that whoever participates in this business owes you future returns.
If
You are
they
owed.
so choose, no, not future returns. No, they don't owe me anything, and I don't owe them
Okay,
anything.
good. Glad we're past that. Okay, so if you're gonna pitch me a job and I say, huh, that sounds all right, but I want some shares.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're a social workplace. We're a socialized workplace. I have some shares. I'm gonna keep demanding more shares or I walk.
Right.
Okay,
Or if I say no, no, you don't get
and
shares.
then I walk.
Right.
Yeah,
Then you walk. Cool.
and,
Like that.
and
I like that.
everyone,
I like that.
but everyone you run into is like, yeah, I'm gonna need a few shares if I'm gonna work for you.
Right.
I want us to be in that universe. I want us to be in the the socialized workplace universe, and so that's the direction I think that benefits society is if we move in the direction of more socialized workplaces, more co ownership, workers having some stake in the means of production, because as it is today, it's horrible. There are very few corporations. I mean, people love to talk shit about Mandragon, but I'm going to talk shit about a local company called REI, where there are programmers and there's a CEO, and that CEO is not making more than like 4 to 5 times what a programmer is making.
So what is the difference between what I'm saying and what you're saying? Like they come to me and they're like, "Hey, I want shares in the lemonade stand." And I'm like, "No." And so they go to like Big Kool-Aid and they're like, "Hey, I want a job at Big Kool-Aid now." But Big Kool-Aid has like a CEO and shareholders. Their owner doesn't exist. The person with the idea, the person with the investment into the initial investment and risk into the company, he doesn't exist anymore. So,
Right.
do you think
So
that
that
Big Kool-Aid should automatically be paying out shares and not necessarily my lemonade stand?
I think that Big Kool-Aid is a perfect description of hegemonic capitalism. And hegemonic capitalism is going to actively resist reform. If we're all small businesses and we all like slowly develop this culture of socialized workplaces owning the means of production based, that'd be awesome. That would be,
I
we'd accomplish a
understand they're
whole
going to
lot.
resist it, but my question is like,
Right.
is are you saying? Because I'm really confused as to like what it is that of what I said that you disagreed with, and so I'm when I say I should be able to decide what I do with my business. And you come back and say, but wouldn't it be cool if people had shares? It's like, yeah, that would be cool. But if I say no, then it just doesn't happen, and the cool thing is just not happening. So where do you bridge that gap as to say like I'm saying no, you're saying yes, but like what has to happen in order for the corporation or the small business or like who is being told what to do in this case?
I think that to bridge the divide between our political philosophies, uh, I am willing to sacrifice personal freedoms in order to accomplish a breakup of hegemonic capitalism. That's the difference, is that you're going to say, well, no, but it's my freedom, is that I am a business owner and I can't be told what to do. And I'm going to come back and say, okay, yeah, you're small enough. There's no way that a responsible socialist government should ever impact that small of a business. But Big Kool-Aid, they're going to pay. They're going to pay a wealth tax. They're going to pay a property tax. They're going to have, their estate when they die. They're going to have to, resist the urge to launder money to give their kids every last cent that they have. They're going to have to let go a little bit, and eventually we can break up hegemonic capitalism in order to have a freer, more productive society.
And do you
on
not
an
think that this
individual
makes it
level.
to where we can employ less people? Like, yes,
I
like
I I
the
don't
people
know,
who are
and
employed will get more, but maybe it's less people who are employed.
I don't think it matters how many. And this is one of those tangents I was resisting. So I don't think that our aggregate production in kilograms of plastic garbage is a net good for society. I think that our progress as society, our net clean energy output is a good positive indicator of society. Our net, the amount of healthcare and housing and the ability of an individual to travel without polluting the environment, those are all positive indicators of society that capitalism is not trying to maximize.
Yeah. I I mean, I think it kind of does though, right? Like
If we're
the
lucky,
there's
if we have a great philosopher king running our society, we would.
not
But
necessarily. Like, there's always a struggle where I want to do the least amount of work possible for the most amount of money. And my corporation, my business, my employer wants me to do the most amount of work for the least amount of money. And it comes down to the negotiation of where, like, we meet in the middle and where each one of us is willing to get the find middle ground in there. And I think that's a good system.
so I think a better system is, um, and in fact, I maybe it's my white privilege and my privilege of being a clever fucking white dude, in that I don't have to work all that hard to get everything I need.
Right.
Is that I am in video games. I'm developing a streaming habit. I'm developing the ability to produce content online. Uh, I can just do what I want, and society will like randomly throw money at me because it's kind of cool once in a while. And that's what I think is ideal for people, is like you don't have to be uh, rigorously transactional about work when what you work on, what you do, is something that you love. Now, that's one reason that wages in the video games industry are pretty depressed. One of the reasons that everyone loves to go to art school, but no one loves to pay artists. Pay your artists, by the way, everyone. Uh, and and so I think that if we find a better middle ground in terms of the supply of labor, of the difference between labor and entertainment, and labor and leisure need to have a crossover that's not so black and white.
Mm, yeah. I mean, you can still get that though with where we're at right now. Like it, I
If you're lucky,
I suppose.
right? Okay.
I mean,
I
not
think
just like
everyone
there.
should have that.
I think there are always going to be jobs that suck. Nobody wants to be the person standing at the front register at McDonald's, but like again, in
Got
order for
robots for that, right?
society to be better, not right. Well, I mean, they exist, but they're not deploying those because it would be detrimental to
I
their
mean,
business. But
just about every McDonald's in the Seattle area is now a touch screen kiosk. And that's not because of our minimum wage, actually, by the way. Though we have lost a few McDonald's because of other reasons. But yeah, we're rapidly heading in that direction, I think.
um, yeah, Seattle might be in a different place. I remember when I first started running a Pizza Hut a while ago. We had some girl who came in and started talking about how we needed to fight for 15 and blah blah blah, and I was like, "Are you crazy?" Like, I pulled out my phone and I was like, "Watch this YouTube video," and I show them the YouTube video of where in Japan they they had a Pizza Hut there where where the robots were making the pizzas, the robots were taking the orders, they were putting it on a conveyor belt. And I was like, you see this? Like, these robots make the pizzas 10 times faster than you can. They never get the ingredients wrong. They always do it perfectly. They never have like loss of product. Their inventory is always 100% correct. Like, this is what will happen a lot faster if you guys make us a bigger um, uh, I can't think of the word, like a bigger problem for the capitalists. So you have to like slow this down and just like understand, like, you got like, having a job is better than no job. You want to fight for 15? Cool. Like, you're probably not going to have anything, and neither will anybody else here.
So tell me about how no one wants to work in America today. Is that still true?
Wait, what are you
Okay.
talking about?
I had to jump there because this is, the argument is that, well, if the cost of labor goes up, then jobs will go away. But the the thing in 2021, what's happened is labor supply is very low, either because of uh, you know because of benefits, because of people tightening their belt and realizing they don't need so much money to survive on. They don't actually need a job in some cases, or they've been given so much money by the government. That was the last hypothesis. The Trump hypothesis, of course, is you're giving people too much money and so they're not working. But the reality is that even there's a place in Seattle called Dick's Hamburgers, and they pay $18 or $19 an hour starting wage, and they still have a $2 hamburger,
Yeah.
and they're still like all the time. Every Dick's in Seattle still hiring. So maybe there's like weird inflation going on. Maybe we're in a weird transitionary phase, but I don't know that uh, that we're necessarily facing this choice of that labor is not necessarily the cost of labor, I should say, is not necessarily driving people out of the market, because so many businesses are still begging for people to work. They just need to pay more. That's
Yeah,
what
I
it
mean,
is.
that's a little bit different, but yeah. Um,
And
um,
and yeah, so yes, there will be some jobs that no one wants to do. Like, few people want to be garbage men.
right.
Garbage men are union members. They are paid very well. They are essential workers, and so we should be willing to pay them for that labor. They should earn a slightly better life than someone who plays video games all day, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I mean,
So
why wouldn't
maybe I'm a sock dem too.
why wouldn't the demand decide how much you get paid?
If we decommodify everything, then maybe it'll just work out that way.
But we're not talking about decommodifying everything. We're talking about doing
Well,
this
why
within a
not?
pragmatic system, right?
Yeah. No, if we decommodify housing and food, just basic necessities like energy, housing, food, healthcare, then maybe it'll work out. I'm willing to push in that direction a little harder than we have been in the last 30 years.
Okay. I
Maybe
yeah.
you're a sock dem too.
I said that I was a sock them at the
Okay.
beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I normally,
I,
like, I don't know, the labels are weird. So like, if I take any sort of political test or anything, they're almost always like very they're almost always going to push you to the left. Like the way that they ask all of their questions make it as though they're trying to make you sound like you're on the left, right? I still end up
Yummy.
yeah. I still end up fairly uh I still end up like pretty stably on the right every time. And but that doesn't stop me from like voting more towards like the SOCDEM direction. I feel like Republicans have just lost their minds so much that like I would love a different party to vote for, but like between the two, this is as good as it gets right now, and the 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 Mitch McConnells and people like that have kind of ruined not only the party but like uh my my people, like the conservatives. Like I feel like they have been just ruined over the last like 10 years between the Tea Party and Donald Trump. Like they've just been turned in, they've all grown brain worms.
I mean, I've seen it going since like Rush Limbaugh in the '90s and all that garbage. You know, like there's who was the last great Republican president that existed? Was it is it before Nixon, right? I mean, that's kind of where I'm digging at when I think about the decline of the Republican Party.
I've never
It's been about power.
Yeah, I've never cared so much about like being a Republican or a Democrat. I care more about being a conservative and uh, the conservative people, you know, being a Christian, having Christian values and wanting to instill that in the world around me, and being a patriot and being uh, caring about my community and the people I live around, like the kind of like things that I've always grown up believing were conservative values. Just I don't know if it turns out that it's always just been flexing and virtue signaling, or what, but like those were always what was said to be the top priorities. And it's not as though progressives don't also have those things as priorities as well. They just weren't the top priorities. Those weren't like the main things to them. And so that's what always made me identify with conservatism. But it's just like that's not the way that they actually those values do not actually seem to play out in the way that they talk about them.
Well, you've got a lot of work to do to save conservatives from Republicans, and I think you can do it. I believe in you, Tom. You're gonna save conservatives from the Republican Party someday.
Yeah.
We just put a little bit of work in, and you will like take the Christian lessons of, you know, um, you know, the universal dignity of humankind and the service to your fellow humans and all that, and either you will decide, oh, Christianity was pretty damn leftist all along, or you'll fix the Republican Party or the conservative, whatever the next conservative party is, because we've got freaking wild three-way Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Trump primaries going on all over the country. Like 2022 is going to be wild, man. I'm going to get my popcorn and watch it happen.
Well, I mean, like I said, I still feel as though my values are right wing. Like the things that I believe in are right wing. It's just when those turn into prescriptions and policies, those seem to line up more with SOCDEMs than any other option that I currently have. So it's not as though like I am just I'm just a leftist and I just can't recognize it. Like it anybody that I
Well,
talk
maybe
to
you
will be able to see fairly easily that I am right wing. I'm just more honest about the world that I live in than it seems other right wingers are. And
you feel when you say you feel patriotism, is that to sort of the community you grew up in, or is it to someone who lives across the country from you?
um, just like yeah, as people within the country, like I think that it's important that people feel some sort of commonality with those that they live around and feel a sense of community with um, with the people around them and things like charity and going to church and all of these other things like they all play right into that.
I think from your values, I could say I don't see a reason why you couldn't turn around and tell me, oh yeah, by the way, I'm an anarchist.
Yeah, of course.
I don't really see. I see like there. It's just the political lens on which you place
Well, but
your ideals,
again,
right?
when you talk, like I said, it's not as though everybody else doesn't also have those values. It's just when you ask them about them, those are not the ones that they're going to bring up. Those are not the ones that they're going to be talking about first. Those are things that they care about too. Just as like you can't say like anybody on the right like doesn't care about uh workers at all, or they don't care about having a better country, but those are not the things that they're going to bring up when you ask them about their values. So that's not the first thing that comes to mind. And so I think like normally, for the most part, as divisive as politics is in our country right now, for the most part, we all care about the same things. We just prioritize those in different orders. And I what I prioritize is what I just mentioned, and an anarchist is not going to mention those.
Oh no, but anarchists will mention um, community consensus, like mutual aid. They will
Yeah,
not using the same shibboleth that you are. They will understand the same ideas through a different lens.
yeah, yeah. I've had this conversation with Vivian Wolf a number of times now. So
Amazing. That's the best person to socialism pill tomfoolery would probably be Vivian because she's amazing.
I don't know. She
She'll sometimes get a little aggro, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Um,
Very cool. So I'm going to get back to my family. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think we've arrived on the conclusion that Hasan probably sucks, though we don't know for sure, but
mm-hmm.
probably.
Yeah,
And we're both based um, semdoc socdems of some flavor. I might be slightly more left, and you might be slightly more right,
I
but
could be a
we all
semdoc.
want. Yeah, there you go. Semdoc doxin. Very cool.
Appreciate it,
So
dude. Consider yourself thoroughly destroyed.
I feel destroyed. I feel like we just hate each other now. So
Awesome.
cool.
All right,
Talk to
man.
you later.
Appreciate it. Later.